Welcome to the 25th session on operating system and Linux. I'm Manibhushan D'Souza, and in today's session, we are going to deal with methods for handling deadlocks. In particular, we are going to look at one of the method called as deadlocks prevention. Now, to avoid the deadlocks, there are three different ways in which we can avoid the deadlocks. Okay. First way in which we can avoid the deadlock is by preventing the deadlocks. So if the deadlock does not happen, if we take precaution not to venture into the deadlock, then it is called as a preventive method. The next one is we have not prevented it, but then we are continuing. So during the continuation of the process, we can avoid a situation of that leads to the deadlock. So this is the two ways. The next one is we can allow the system to enter into deadlocks. However, we can regularly we can go and check whether there is a deadlock. If there is a deadlock, we can devise a technique of somehow recovering from the deadlock. The last way in which we can handle the deadlock is we can ignore the deadlock altogether and allow the system to come to a standstill and then take the action. So there are four ways in which we can handle it. Now the fourth one, even though the fourth method is there, but the fourth method is not a method as such, because we don't take any action. Whereas in the first three methods, we first prevent the deadlocks from happening. If we cannot prevent, we avoid the deadlock. If we cannot avoid the deadlock, we try to recover from the deadlock. So these are three ways in which we can do it. But the fourth way is we don't take any action. But that option is also there to handle with the deadlock, even though we don't say that that is a method, but you can think that that is there. So in general, there are two ways of handling the deadlock, and those are the first two techniques. One is the deadlock prevention, the second one is the deadlock avoidance. So what is the meaning of saying deadlock prevention? We know that a deadlock can happen if there are four conditions simultaneously met. If you don't know the four conditions, watch the previous video. So if all those four conditions are not simultaneously hold good, then the deadlock will not happen. So somehow we have to devise a technique in such a way that the deadlock does not happen, because at least one of the condition does not satisfy. So if you are able to stop one of the condition from happening, even if there are three other conditions are there, deadlock may not happen. So if you are able to prevent one of the condition, at least one of the condition, from simultaneously holding good, then we can prevent the deadlock. Okay, what about the deadlock avoidance? Okay, so if you have not able to prevent the deadlock, okay, so we can take a precaution in such a way that as we proceed, we don't end up in a deadlock. Now, for this, we must have the operating system, and I say we must have the proper knowledge of how many resources will be requested in the future. What is the current status, and in future, how many resources will be requested, so that it can allocate the resources in such a way that the deadlock will not happen. So we are not going behind the four conditions, but we are taking a caution step in allocating the resources in such a way that the allocation will not lead to the deadlock. Okay. In order to do so, in order to avoid the deadlock, there are few things that the operating system must know. First of all, it must decide whenever a current request comes whether it can be satisfied or not. Okay, so when a new request comes to the operating system, it has to decide whether the current request must be satisfied, How does it knows whether the current request can be satisfied? It has to look into the system, look at how many available resources are there, look at how many resources are been already allocated, and also predict what is going to happen in the future. So how many requests will come in future, how many process will end in the future, so everything has to be known. So whenever a request comes to the operating system, it has to first check whether there is sufficient resources available. So if I give a resource to the current process, what is going to happen in the future, whether somebody is going to make a request for that, or in future somebody is going to release some resources or not. These are all the things the operating system has to look into before giving the resource. So this is called as avoidance. So we don't blindly, when I say we, the operating system will not blindly give the allocate the resources. Before giving the resources or before allocating the resources, it will verify or it will check whether such a move will lead to a deadlock. If such a move will lead to the deadlock in future, then that request will not be, or that resource will not be granted. Okay. The next option is we don't apply any deadlock prevention, nor we apply deadlock avoidance, but we allow the deadlock to happen. So we don't avoid the four conditions that are required for deadlock. We don't bother about them, nor when we allocate the resources, the operating system does not bother. It will simply allocate the resource. And when the cautions are not taken, and if it is not careful, the system will lead will end up in a deadlock. When such a deadlock occurs, the algorithm or these algorithms which are used in this method will every now and then cross verify the status of this system. What is the state of the system, to check whether there is any deadlock. If there is any deadlock, it will try to recover out of the deadlock, maybe by shutting down some processes, or by preempting something, some or other, some by taking some method or some measure. Even though there is a deadlock, it will try to come out of the deadlock. So it is like you go in road, take your vehicles and go, there is a traffic jam, and somebody, one hero is going to come. He or she will try somehow do some magic trick in such a way that all the vehicles will start moving normally without the traffic jam. So we cannot prevent it, we cannot avoid it. It happened, there is a traffic jam, but somehow after the traffic jam we woke up and then we did something to come out of the traffic jam situation. Okay. Now the next one, last one that I told you, even though this is a method handling, it's a method for handling deadlock, but in this method we are not doing anything. So what is the meaning of that? We don't take the precaution, we don't avoid, nor we try to recover from the deadlock. So in such a case, what will happen is there is going to be a deadlock. When there is going to be a deadlock, the performance of the system is going to go down. So why? It's going to deteriorate because the system resources are not put into action. Every process is waiting for the others to complete. New process cannot be started because olds have not completed. Eventually what is going to happen is system will come to a standing halt. In such a case, what has to be done? So system has to be reset or restarted manually. So it is possible. Okay, you may say that that is not a solution for a given problem, but it is being used in some of the system. The reason for that is in some scenarios the deadlock never occurs every now and then. We don't see a deadlock happening for every second. Deadlock may happen once in a year, let's say. So if the deadlock happens in some situation, if the deadlock happens once in a year, a deadlock happens, then it's better you switch off the system and restart it if there is a deterioration. So you may say that what is why do you have to switch it off? Remember, whether you are preventing it, whether you are avoiding it, whether you are trying to recover it from the deadlock, all these things are extra effort that the operating system has to do. When I say extra effort, it has to use additional resources in order to prevent, in order to avoid, in order to recover from the deadlock. If the deadlock is happening once in a year, all these efforts are wasted, because if the deadlock happens every now and then definitely you have to prevent, avoid, recover, everything will come, because that is justified. The reason is deadlock happens every now and then, but in this case the deadlock may happen after very long time. It's okay if it happens, we will restart it. Why to unnecessarily use system resources in trying to prevent, avoid, and recover from the deadlock when it happens once in a while, or once in a very long time, not once in a while, once in a very long time. In that case we can just avoid it. So this method, even though there is no method inside it, because you have to just restart the system, but nevertheless this is a way in which you can handle the deadlock. Okay. There are also some situations wherein the deadlock may not happen, because some process may take a terribly longer time. So the system may feel like it has been frozen, but after that the system may recover on its own, because if the process is taking very long time, a very critical process is taking very long time, but then it starts. Sometimes you know that the system is not responding to you very long time, but you go out, have a cup of coffee and come back, and then you find the system is working. Okay, so that is not a deadlock as such, but it is taking some time for the system to start. Now let's look at the first technique, and the first technique is the deadlock prevention. So what is the meaning of saying deadlock prevention? We will prevent the deadlock from happening. So we know that prevention is better than cure. So if you are able to prevent the deadlock, there is no need for recovering, there is no need for restarting the system, and so on and so forth. So how can we prevent the deadlock? We can prevent the deadlock if we avoid four conditions. What are those four conditions? Four conditions are mutual exclusion, hold and wait, non preemption, circular wait. If all these four conditions are somehow, at least one of them is not happening simultaneously, deadlock cannot happen. So if the deadlock has to happen, then there must be mutual exclusion, hold and wait, non preemption, circular wait. All these four conditions must simultaneously happen. All the four conditions are there, means there is a deadlock. If at least one of them is not there, then there cannot be a deadlock. So we try to avoid at least one of them. Somehow the system must see to it that one of them does not happen. So let's look at the mutual exclusion. So when do you need a mutual exclusion? If the data or if the resource is not shareable, then we need mutual exclusion. For example, you have a resource called as a printer. Two resources or two processes can't simultaneously print on that printer. So printer is mutually exclusion. If the printer is there with one process, other process cannot print it. So this is a shareable resources. If there are non-shareable resources, they can always be given in a non-mutual exclusion option. For example, you are reading from a file. There is no need to lock the file, because any number of process can read from the file without making without creating any problem. So if you have a read-only file, then that resource is shareable. When the resources are shareable, we don't require mutual exclusion. However, there are some resources which are mutually exclusion, which has to be used in a mutual exclusive way, and these are shareable resources. And whenever a process requests for a shareable resources, it cannot be, that request cannot be granted unless and otherwise nobody else has requested it. Okay, so if the shareable resource has been requested and it is already been used by somebody else, the process has to wait. So the mutual exclusion, the thing called as mutual exclusion, cannot be avoided. You cannot prevent the mutual exclusion from happening. So by there is no direct way in which you can prevent the deadlock from happening by avoiding the mutual exclusion. It's not possible, okay? Because for example, you cannot simply say that, okay, I don't want the deadlock to happen, so I will allow the two processes to use the printer. So what will happen? Two processes will simultaneously start printing, and you know what is the result. So it's not possible. Or two processors simultaneously start writing onto the same file, you know what's going to happen. So this is going to be a disaster. So it's not really possible for a mutual deadlock, to prevent the deadlock with mutual exclusion. Let's go to the next one, and the next one is hold and wait. So what is the meaning of saying hold and wait? The processes acquire some resources and wait for the other resources. Okay, then the hold and wait will come. So they are holding some resource and they are waiting for the other resources. Okay, how do we prevent that thing from happening? There are numerous ways in which it can be prevented. One of the way is, whenever a process says I want a resource, okay, it should not hold any other resource. So that is it. So in other words, you tell the processors, whichever process is starting, whatever you want, you tell me right at the beginning. Later, I am not going to give you anything. So before you start, tell me what you want. Do you want a printer? Do you want a tape drive? Do you want a pen drive? You tell me all the resources that you want. I will give you all of them. Once you get it, you go for the completion. If you don't get any one of them, you don't proceed. So this is a very simple thing. So whenever a process makes a request, it doesn't have any other resources with it. So process comes to you blank, and it will give you a chit saying that I want this. You give all of them and say you start beginning. In other words, each process, okay, so it is requires that each process to make the request has to be allocated all the resources before it starts. Okay, so how do we achieve that thing? So this can be achieved by asking all the processor right before they start, tell us what you want. So all the process, what you want, or you ask all the process, or what you want, tell me first. So this system call is done first, then the processing will start. If they don't get it, if we just say that you don't get these resources now, you wait, you come later. Okay, so what is the alternate way of achieving this? Okay, alternate way is you allow the process to continue. So in the first way, what you are doing is one first way is you tell the process whatever you want, you tell me right at the beginning. Once you start, don't ask me for anything. So once you start processing, you don't come and ask me, request me that I want this and that. I won't entertain any such request. So before you start, tell me everything. Other one is, okay, you start. Okay, but when you are making a request, you see to it that you don't hold any resource. So if you don't have any resource, nothing is there with you, then only come and ask me for anything. So when you want a printer, if you want a printer, if you say I want a printer, if you come and request me, then you must see to it that you don't hold any tape drive, nothing is there with you, you don't have any resource, you just come and say that I want a resource. So this is the first request that you in other words, when you are doing a request, you request for all the devices at a time. So don't come now and ask me I want a tape drive. After 5 minutes, don't come and say I want a printer. After 10 minutes, you don't come and say that I want a plotter. Not like that. When you want resources, you make a list of all the resources. Come and request me, I want all these things. Whether you are using it or not, that's not my problem. You come and request me for all the resources, I will immediately give you. So when you are making a request, you don't hold any resource. After your request is granted, you get all the resources. So before you make a request, nothing is there with you, but once you make a request, you have everything with you. So that is one solution. Okay, but however, this is not a great solution. So let's take a simple example. Let's assume that you have some numbers or some data in a tape drive, and you know the tape drive is very slow. So you first transfer that content from the tape drive into the disk, and from the disk these you are going to sort this number in ascending order, descending order. You have studied a lot of sorting algorithm by now, and once you sort the content, you are going to print that content. Okay, so let's say, okay, it could be like you read all the files from the tape drive into the disk, sort the files, and then print it. So if you make the second option, like I want all the resources, so what the process will do? So if you tell the process that when you want to make a request, you request for everything. So what the process will come and say that I want a tape drive, I want a disk file, I want a printer, everything is required, everything is given to you. But what is the problem with it? Problem with it is initially it is using tape drive, and maybe it is writing onto the disk, but the printer is not used during that time. So what is the meaning of that? Resource is not being utilized. The printer could have been given to somebody else who could have completed the printing. Just because the printer is given to this process, printer is simply lying idle without being used up. Okay, so this is not a great idea. So initially, the what is required? We require a tape drive and the disk. Okay. So the other option is, you tell the printer that you tell the process that what you want. You tell me what you want first. It will say that I want a tape drive and I want to print the disk. So you give tape drive and disk to the process and say you complete it. So what the process will do now, it wants a printer. So it got the tape drive, it got the disk, it copied everything from the tape drive to the disk, it sorted the content, now it wants to print. Now the printer was not requested, so what it will do is it will release all of them. It will release the tape drive, it will release the disk, and again come back to you and say, no, I don't have anything with me, now give me the disk and printer. So now you check, okay, nothing is there with you. Okay, you when what was the condition? When you are making a request, you should not hold anything. So when the process comes to you and makes a request, it doesn't have anything. So you say, okay, you don't have anything. Take the disk, take the printer, print it. So after it completes the printing, it releases all the resources. This way, you can avoid hold and wait. However, there are disadvantages. I have already told you. One of the disadvantages is the low utilization of the resources. Okay. So, as I've already told you, during the beginning of the example just now I gave you, there is a disk, there is a tape drive, and there is a disk. They are required at the beginning, but if you allot even the printer remains idle. Okay. So the next one is the starvation. Starvation is, suppose if a process is making a request for some popular resources, like everybody wants to use the disk. Every now and then process wants a disk. If in that case the disk is heavily being used, and if anybody makes a request, okay, for the disk, what will happen is you say you release the everything and come back with a fresh. I got the disk after a lot of struggle. Now if I release it, I may not get it next time. So the process may not get those like popular resources every now and then. So it is this particular solution is not very effective. So let's go to the next solution then. What's the next solution? So we started by saying that it is not possible to mutual exclusion. Then we went here and say we can't have hold and wait. Mutual exclusion cannot solve the problem. Hold and wait is not a great solution. Let's go to the no preemption. What's the meaning of saying no preemption is, once the resource is given to the process, operating system does not have the ability to pull it back. So once a resource is given to a process, the process must voluntarily return it back to the OS. Otherwise, the OS cannot forcefully stop the resource or remove the resource from the process and give it to the others. So can this be done? Okay. So if you are not able to, if the operating system is able to stop a process from using a resource and then forcefully remove it and give it to the others, then we say that there is a preemption. It is able to preempt the content. Okay, let's take an example. Suppose say if there is a process that is holding some resources, and it requests for another resource. Now suppose say that another resource is not immediately allocated to the process. Maybe it is used by the some others. Then in case of non-preemption, what is being done is the operating system says, so you want that resource, I cannot give you that resource. Now I have given you other resources. Okay, give me back all the resources to me. Stop, because you can't proceed. I know that you want resource. For example, one of the process comes and says, I want a printer. So operating system says the printer is used for next half an hour, you won't get the printer. And operating system will look at the process and says, see, I gave you the tape drive, I gave you the disk. Now because you can't print anything there, you don't need those resources, so give it back to me, I will use it for somebody else. So simple as that. So what the operating system will do is, whatever those resources are which are already given, they are preempted, and that can be allocated to the others. So this way other process can go for the completion. Okay, so preemptive resources are added to the list of free resources which can be given to the waiting processes. And once the resource is available, so the operating system, you have to wait for half an hour. After half an hour, what must be done? The printer has to be given, and all those preempted resources were there, the tape and the disk, they have to be also be given to the process, and ask the process, okay, you now continue. So this way it can be done. Okay, the other way around is, suppose if the process makes a request for some resources, check whether that resource is available. If the resource is available, your problem is solved. You don't need to do anything. Resource available, allocate them. Suppose if the resource is not available, okay, then the other way around. So it came, your process came to the operating system, say, I want a printer. Operating system says, oh sorry, I can't give you the printer because the printer is being used. So what the operating system will do is, it will check all the waiting processes. Apart from this process is waiting now because printer is not available. There may be other processes which are waiting. It checks all the other processor, does anybody has the printer, waiting process, not the executing process, who are also waiting for something, disk, pen drive or anything. All of them are waiting. So these waiting people, they check anybody has a printer. If anybody has a printer, just take that printer and give it to you. So it is simple as that. So you come to the operating system, say, I want to the printer. So in the previous case, what the operating system says, now you have to wait, give me all the resources back. This time what the operating system says, okay, you want the printer, I gave you the tape drive, I gave you the disk, now you want the printer. Now it checks who are all waiting. From the waiting, if anybody has the printer, it just takes the printer and gives it to this process and says, okay, you continue now. You wanted the printer, I gave. So what is the advantage here? That process was anyhow waiting. Remember, it is not stopping the executing process. The process which who are waiting, from there the resources are taken and given to the this process. Okay, so it is preempted from the waiting process and allocated them. Okay, if the resources are not available, or if the held by the other waiting processor, then what to do in that case? You have to wait. So if the operating system checks the, nobody has the printer, it asks whoever is waiting, anybody has the printer, nobody says no. In that case, what happens? The process says, wait, there is no printer available. So that's the other way around. Okay, so in other words, while a process is waiting for a resource, it may be preempted by the other process. It's as simple as that. Now, if you are simply waiting, you are not doing anything. What is the use of you holding the resources? Give it to the others, let them use it. Okay. But when the process restart, it has to be given the requested one as well as the preempted one. So that has to be given. Okay, but you must understand that this kind of tricks can be played only on those resources whose state can be saved. If the state of the resource cannot be saved, then it cannot be given. Then it cannot be preempted. For example, I told you that I take the printer and I gave the printer to the other one. Now you know if the half the page is printed, let's assume half the page is printed and the process got stuck because it doesn't have the resource. In that case, what will happen? I'll take the printer and give it to somebody else. What somebody else will do, they will start printing from the middle of the page. So half the page is from this process, other half is from the other process, and the end result is, you know what's going to happen. So not that every process, if it is not possible to save the state. For example, if it is a CPU register, or if it is a memory, the content of the memory can be saved onto the disk, or the content of the CPU register can be saved somewhere else, so that later it can be recovered back. Okay, so if such a thing can happen, you can go for preemption. Otherwise, the preemption is not a option. The last one is circular weight. So what is circular weight? Circular weight is a very simple solution. That means you have one process is waiting for a resource that is held by the other process is waiting for a resource that is held by the some other process, and the other process is waiting for something else, and finally this is waiting. So everybody is waiting for the resources that are held by the others. So this is called as circular weight. Okay, so how to prevent the circular weight from happening? Circular weight you can prevent the circular weight from happening by ordering all the resources of one particular type. What is the meaning of it is you give the priority. So printer is given number one, hard disk is given number two, floppy disk is given number three, pen drive is number four. So in the ascending order, you give the number. Okay, so higher the order means it has to come later. So by putting an order, and you tell all the requesting resources that you have to make a request in the ascending order of a request. For example, if you have the resources R1, R2, R3, Rn, and so on. So R1, the first one like printer, R2 is pen drive, R3 is floppy disk, R4 is CD drive, and so on. Any resources for that matter. You have many resources there. So you give the integer number. Now integer number will give an order. So first is this one, after that second, after that third, after that fourth. So you can have an order in the ascending order. Okay, the example that is given over here is for example, the tape drive is given 1, the disk is given number 5, the printer is given number 12, and so on. So you give the order, but you notice that they are given order in a particular numerical order. You have given the natural number, not 1.5, 2.5, and don't get confused. So you just give an order so that they are in a specific order. Okay, the protocol that uses it is each process can make a request to a resources only in an increasing order of enumeration. So what is the meaning of that is, if you have made a request, let's look at this one. If you have made a request for the disk, now suppose if you are already using the disk drive, then you can make the request only for printer. You cannot make the request for tape drive because this number is less than the 5 number. So the next you can take 6, 7, 8, 9, you can take any one of them, but you cannot take 4, 3, 2, 1 because you have already crossed it. So first you make a request for the 1, then you go for the 2, then you go for the 3, 4, 5. You can't come back to 1. So it is always in the one order in which it has to be done. So for example, if you are you making use of a resource Ri, you are making a request for Ri. Okay, then if you are making the next request Rj, that is the next request, then Rj must be greater than Ri. So this numbering, so R for example, if you have made a request for R3, the next number is R4, R5, R6 or anything, but R2 is not allowed. Okay. If you want if several instances of the same resource type is required, then you have to say I want 5 printers, I want 4 pen drive, and so on and so forth. Okay. In other words, I have already told you, if you want to make suppose if you want to use a printer, then you want to read from the disk and write to a printer, then you must not ask the printer first, then the disk. It's not the other way around. First you must ask the disk and then you ask for the printer. So don't ask the higher number first, because then you have to ask the next higher number. You cannot get the previous number. Okay. So the other way around is alternatively what is being done is, so whenever a process makes a request for an instance of Rj, for one Rj is any number, okay, it has released all the resources Ri, which is higher than that. For example, just to give you an analogy, let's say you have a printer, okay, this is a printer, okay, then you have a disk, then you have a pen drive, let's say, okay, pen drive, this is a pen drive, okay, let's say this is 5, this is 3, this is 2. Okay, let's assume that you are already using 5 and 3. Okay, let's say not 3, you are using 5 and 2. Okay, pen drive and printer you are using. Now you want to use the disk. So what you must do? So you cannot make a request for the disk because your last number is 5. So you are using the printer. You are using the printer and pen drive. You are using these two, but you are not using 3. Now because your last number is 5, you can ask for 6, you can ask for 7, you can ask for 8, anything, but you can't ask 3. In that case, what you can do? You can play a trick. Because you want 3, what you can do is you can release the printer first. Release the printer. So what happens? What is your last number? Last number is 2. Now you can go for the request for 3 and 5. So in other words, if you are making a request for Rj, okay, release all the Ris which are greater than Rj. Suppose if you are making for a request for Rj, release all the Ris which are higher than that. Release all of them and then remove use it. So this is the idea. Now there is a proof for this one. The proof is by contradiction. Okay. So in this proof, what we are trying to do is we try to build a contradiction that if there is a circular queue, such a thing cannot happen. Okay. So let's assume that we know that this is the idea here is suppose you have processes 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on and so forth. So I will going to give the number 1 and the second one is 2, the third one is 3 and the last one is 4. Now if there is a circular queue, then this is waiting for the other, this is waiting for the other, this is waiting for the other, and the last one will be waiting for the first one. It is circular, remember that. So how do you get this one? How do you get the next number? Suppose if the next number, if there are n number of items are there, how do you get the next number? So next number you are going to get, if you are at the ith position, what is the next one? I plus 1, then mod n. So this is the idea. If you are at 4th, which is the next number that you are going to get? 4 plus 1 by n. So what is the 4 plus 1? 4 plus 1 is 5. 5 mod 4 is n1. It's going to come back to that. So now the question is, suppose you are making a request. you are making a request for the fifth item. Okay, and the fifth item is there with this. You are making for a request resource of number 5, any resource it may be. That resource is there with the 2. Now 2 cannot make a request for 4. Why 2 cannot make a request for 4? Because 2 is already using the resource 5. That is why you are asking, give me the resource of number 5, and 2 says no, I am having it. So now the 2 cannot go to the system and ask, okay, give me the resource number 4, because it is contradicting, because it's already using a number 5. So if at all it is making a request, it has to make a request for 6. And who has that request? 6 is there with this one. Okay, if this is there with the which one? So the resource 6 is there with the 3, then 3 cannot make a request for 4, 5, 3, 2, anything, because the last number resource that 3 is using is 6. So 6 can make a request, 3 can make a request for 7, 8, 9, anything. Suppose if the 3 is making a request for the resource number 8, let's say resource number 8, okay, then resource number 8 is there with the, because why it is a circular queue? What is the meaning of saying circular queue? Circular queue means a process holds a resource and it is waiting for the other one to give that resource. It is waiting for somebody else to give the resource. It has some resource, but some other resources are there with somebody else. It wants them, all the other resources to be there. So 3 is holding the resource number 6, but it wants the resource number 8. But who has that resource number 8? 4 has the resource number 8. Okay. Now 4 is, if you say it is a circular queue, if you say 4 is waiting for a resource number 5, if it is a circular queue, 4 is waiting for the resource number 5 which is held by 1. How is it possible? Why it is not possible? Because I have already told you. What does the algorithm says? Algorithm says is that if you are holding resource number 8, then you can make a request for resource number 9, resource number 10, resource number 100, resource number 5000. You can make any ascending order, any other number, but not, you can't make anything less than, you can't request anything less than 8. But if there is a circular queue, that means it is a contradicting our algorithm. So there is no circular queue. So if you are making a call in the ascending order, circular queue cannot happen. So that's a essence of that particular algorithm. Okay. The when I say that you are ordering the numbers, the numbering should be ordered in a very specific way. For example, there must be a normal order. For example, you know very well, before printing you will start reading from the tape drive. So don't give the printer first number and tape driver second number, because once you get the printer, you cannot ask the printer. So usually you need tape first. So if suppose say if the tape is given, let's say if the tape is given ordering, I'm just giving you the ordering. So if the tape is given number 4 and the printer is given number 3, what will happen? You are going to read from the tape and then print here. Once you get 4, what will happen? You cannot get the printer, because the operating system will say you got 4, now ask for 5, don't ask for 3, I am not going to give you. So this ordering must be in a normal order. So first the tape drive will come, then the printer will come. So some kind of caution has to be taken in order for this process to work. Okay, that's all in today's session. Again, if you are really interested in knowing more about it, please refer the Galvin's book on the operating system. Thank you for your interest.